The hardest thing I ever did was stop explaining myself to someone who had spent years making me feel guilty for needing basic respect. It started on a Thursday night in my cousin's apartment. A few of us were sitting around the living room after dinner, talking about relationships and laughing about how badly some of us had handled breakups. I had barely said a word all evening. Then my cousin looked at me and said, "You know you're allowed to leave, right?" Everyone got quiet. I laughed because I thought she was joking. She wasn't. My boyfriend and I had been together for almost 3 years. From the outside, we looked fine. We went places together, posted pictures, celebrated birthdays, met each other's families, but nobody saw what happened when the doors closed. Every disagreement somehow became my fault. If I was upset, I was too sensitive. If I asked where he had been, I was controlling. If he ignored me for an entire day, I was supposed to understand that he was stressed. And whenever I finally reached my limit, he would become unbelievably sweet. He would apologize. He would promise things would change. He would tell me he couldn't imagine his life without me. So I stayed. Over and over again. That night, my cousin asked me one question. What would your life look like if you stopped waiting for him to become someone he clearly isn't? I didn't answer, but the question followed me home. The next morning, I woke up before my alarm and stared at my phone. There were 7 messages from him. The first said, "Good morning." The second asked why I hadn't replied. By the 7th, he was angry. Normally, I would have spent the next hour trying to fix the situation. Instead, I put my phone face down. Then I did something I had never done before. I wrote down everything I had been tolerating. Every insult. Every broken promise. Every night I had cried quietly because I didn't want my family to know. Every time I had apologized just to make an argument end. When I finished, I realized something that scared me. I wasn't confused about whether he loved me. I was confused about why I kept accepting a version of love that was hurting me. That afternoon, I told him I needed space. He called immediately. I didn't answer. Then came the messages. "I'll change. Please don't do this. You're throwing away 3 years." Then anger. "You're really going to act like I'm the bad guy?" I still didn't answer. For the first few days, it was brutal. I kept reaching for my phone whenever something happened because he had been the person I told everything to. Even when he was the reason I was unhappy, he was still the person I wanted to run to. So I replaced the habit. I started walking after work. I cleaned my room. I began exercising again. I started having dinner with my family instead of making excuses to stay home. I even started saving money because I realized I had spent years planning my future around someone else. 3 weeks later, I felt different. Not completely healed, just quieter. Then one evening, he showed up outside my workplace. He stood beside the entrance holding the necklace he had given me on our first anniversary. When I walked outside, he said, "I know you still love me." I looked at the necklace in his hand. He continued, "So why are you doing this?" For the first time, I didn't feel angry. I didn't feel scared either. I simply said, "Because loving you stopped being enough." He stared at me like he had expected an argument. There wasn't one. I gave him the necklace back and walked away. That night, I sat on my bed and cried, but those tears felt different. They weren't tears because I wanted him back. They were tears because I finally understood how long I had been abandoning myself just to keep someone else from leaving me. Months later, I saw him unexpectedly at a grocery store. He asked if I was happy. I thought about the person I had been before. Then I smiled and said, "I'm finally becoming someone I recognize." And I walked away before he could answer. Because sometimes the strongest ending isn't getting revenge. It's reaching a point where the person who once controlled your emotions no longer has the power to change your peace.